Church. We would like to share a few announcements with you today.
A big thank you to all those who donated candy, prayed for, and volunteered at Sweet Street last Monday. The weather was fantastic and we were able to serve so many people. So many, in fact, that we just can't keep track of them all. We estimate that there were between 3,000 and 4,000 people. Each of the people who filled out a door prize card have received a text from Anthony and have been mailed information if they wanted to know more about our ministries here at FCC. We are so grateful for this annual opportunity God provides for us.
Our packing party for Operation Christmas Child is today at 1 o'clock. We look forward to having everyone join us for this special event in the fellowship hall. We appreciate all the hard work Tom and Diane Sarver continue to pour into this ministry.
As always, we will be having Wednesday evening Bible studies called Family Ties. Dinner is at 6 p.m. with Bible studies immediately following. On the menu this week, chili, broccoli soup, potato soup, veggies, and dessert.
Next Saturday is a busy day here at FCC. We will be hosting Crafty Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The public is invited to come check out our bake sale and all the fun vendors who will be set up that day. And everyone is invited to the board meeting at 9 a.m. in the FCC offices.
Next Sunday is a special Panther Pride Sunday. We have invited the Jennings County Middle School show choir called Una Voce to come enjoy breakfast with us at 9:45 and to sing for us at our 10:45 worship service. We hope you will join us for this special day.
On Monday, November 14th, Forever Young will be meeting at 6 p.m. with a pitch-in dinner. The program will be following by Krista Garrison from Hoosier Christian Village. Everyone 55 and older is welcome.
There are even more upcoming events listed in your bulletin.
And
Don't forget that we keep our church website, Facebook page, and Twitter filled with the latest and greatest happenings here at First Christian Church.
That's all for the announcements. Have a great week.
I'll be just saying.
What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow down. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow down. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow down. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow down. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow down. Heaven and earth adore him.
This mighty God, this powerful God. Of course, throughout the video, it showed all these different sceneries and everything in this earth that God had created. And it's just a good reminder of the fact of how powerful God is and how mighty God is. And what a blessing we have to have a God that we serve. I also share this because it reminds me of camp in my childhood. And one of the things I appreciated about camp is the fact that we would have this campfire. And campfire, if you've ever been to camp, if you've never been to camp, campfire is at night. It's the last thing we do right before we, shut lights off for bedtime. And it is typically the peak of your spiritual day, along with the evening worship. But it's a very serious point. It's a very serious point of the whole camp's schedule. And it's where kids typically have to reflect and make decisions that they need to make. And that is just so important. And I'm reminded of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, whatever was going on in my life at that time. It was at that campfire that I would reflect. And today, I'd like to help bring you to that point. Bring you to the point that what is reflection in our own life, on what's going on in our life, and maybe some decisions that we need to look at and focus in on. And this is the time that we reflect and say, what a mighty God we serve. And our mighty God is leading me to do what? That's what we're going to talk about this morning. What a mighty God we serve. In Numbers 21, 5 through 9, it tells us of the Israel's rebellion. And there's so much similarities to what's going on in Israel and what is going on in our country today. Numbers 21, 5 through 9, it says this. The people spoke against God and Moses. Why have you led us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread or water, and we detest the wretched food. Then the Lord sent poisonous snakes among the people, and they bit them so that many Israelites died. The people then came to Moses and said, we have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord so that we will take the snakes away from us. And Moses interceded for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, make a snake image and mount it on a pole. When anyone who is bitten looks at it, he will recover. So Moses made a bronze snake and mounted it on a pole. And whenever someone was bitten, he looked at the bronze snake and he would recover. There's a lot of tension going on with the Hebrew children, the Israelite children, and it's not a good environment. It's not a good place to be in. And this tension is really thick, it's really deep, of anticipation of what's going to happen next. This tension that something has to happen, something has to be fixed. There's got to be a solution to all these problems and everything that's going on. And I think it's so similar to our country as we're gearing up for a presidential election. And there's so many concerns that we have with either candidate. And it's this tension that's going on because people are campaigning hard for this candidate or that candidate. And there's quite a bit of uncertainty going on for the future of our country. Well, that was what was going on for Israel. But the problem that Israel was doing is they were not faithful to God. And their spirits were not very high. They were struggling a lot with the doubt that they were a doubt in what God was doing, how God was working through Moses. How quickly they forgot. They forgot how important it was to obey God's word. They forgot about the wonders and the miracles that God had done for them. And they put God to the test by making demands of him. God, if you really love me, if you're a real God, you're going to provide us meat. You're going to provide us with this or that or the other. We want this, and God, if you're a God who truly loves us, you're going to give it for us. And such a horrible perspective, such a horrible attitude, but that was the attitude that they had. They would lie to God, saying, well, God, I would never do this, and I would never do that, and then turn around and do it anyway. But then during their worship, they would flatter God and say all kinds of wonderful things about God, to have this show everyone else how deep their faith was by flattering God. It was not a great place. It was not a great situation. A lot of unrest. And they were rebelling not only against God, but against the leadership that God put into place. How quickly they forgot who God was. And we think, Moses, why would they question Moses? Well, think about it. Of course they're questioning Moses. Of course this is what's going on in their life. They're questioning Moses because they're in a desert. And they're dying of thirst. They're dying of hunger. They haven't had meat. They're relying on this manna to be their nutrition. And they're just not liking what's going on in the direction that Moses is leading them. They're questioning his leadership. They're not happy about him at all. And how similar is that in our country today? After Tuesday night, there's going to be a new president. And while they won't technically be into office until January, we know that there's a new president-elect. We're going to have a new president. And there are going to be people who are very upset that so-and-so will be elected. And there's a lot of people who will be I've heard it from everybody, who will say all these horrible things are going to happen if this person is elected or if that person is elected. But what I want us to make sure we are reminded of is no matter who's elected, God is still in charge. God is still going to take care of us. And our faithfulness, our allegiance needs to be to him. And some people have said how horrible this president has been or that president has been. It doesn't matter. Because God is in control. God is in charge. And that is what we're going to have to remember. God gave us His Word. And the reason why we have the Bible is this is God speaking to us. And God wanted us to hear His Word, His story. As you take a look at the Bible, there's all kinds of situations and all kinds of accounts where people did the right thing. And we see what happens because they did the right thing. And they were blessed, and God used them in a mighty way because they were following His vision for their life, and they were excited about it. But God, also in the Bible, there are people who did the wrong thing. And it just provides for us this excellent opportunity to learn what happens when we make the right choice versus what happens when we make the wrong choice. Learning from their mistakes, we can be better people. We can make better decisions. God recorded these painful, shameful truths in His Word so that future generations would avoid them. And we see in the New Testament, Paul actually uses this story to warn the new believers that as long as you're faithful, God will provide for you. But if you're unfaithful like the Israelites, then you will face uncertain circumstance. God wanted them to learn from their mistakes. I think the most important thing that we can pass on to our children is obviously the gospel of Jesus Christ. But to add to that, another important, valuable lesson that we need to pass on to our children, our grandchildren, those being influenced, is the fact that they need to learn from our mistakes. They need to learn the difference between right and wrong. It's called wisdom. And the greatest thing we can pass on is spiritual wisdom. So that our children know this is the right thing to do versus this is the wrong thing to do. God knew that was important. That's why He told the Israelites, remind them of what happened here. Remind them of my laws. Not because I'm this dictator God, but because I care. And I don't want them to repeat the same mistakes their ancestors made. And that's why it's in here. God does not want you. He does not want us to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. Because, by the way, if you take a look at Israel's history, that's exactly what happened. Over and over again, the children of Israel claimed that they would follow God, but then they would turn away from Him. The problem was not the fact that they weren't willing to make commitments to God. They were. But they were willing to make commitments by their mouth and not with their hearts. So their repentance was empty. Talk is cheap. God wants our life to reflect the spiritual claims and promises that we've made. And He wanted that from the Israelites. And when God sent these venomous snakes, it's easy for us to take a step back and say, well, how cruel. You know, if God's got to love, why would He do this? Why would He send snakes to kill off His own children? Well, maybe we need to take a look at it from His perspective. 9 months ago, Kristen and I became parents. I can tell you if there was something that was threatening my child and threatening to do harm to him, I'm going to be what they call Papa Bear or Mama Bear. You know, I'm going to protect him. And I'm going to make sure that whatever is causing them harm is not going to cause them harm. What would you be willing to do for your kids? If you knew somebody was going to hurt them, would you not intervene? Would you not stop? Even to the point of physical violence to keep your children safe? We see this in nature. You know, a mama bear and her cub. If something threatens that cub, boy, that mama bear's right on. We will do anything to protect our kids, won't we? God is willing to do anything to protect His children. And if that meant He would have to remove those who were threatening harm, and that's exactly what He was going to do. And it wasn't a pleasant situation. These people were leading the masses away from God. away from God's plan. And every time they would be bitten, that poison would set in, and that meant for a slow, very painful death. And you may think that's horrible, but here's how God works. Yeah, he sends them, but then he gives them a way out. He provides for them a way to be healed. He tells Moses, create this bronze snake and pin it on a pole, and when they look at that bronze snake, they're healed. For all their complaining, for all their whining and grumbling, poisonous snakes came. And when the poisonous snakes came, he provided a way out. What can we learn from here? What do we have to complain about? Did you know that when you complain, it's typically for self-centered reasons? It's because you're feeling sorry for yourself. I know when I'm complaining and I'm whining, it's because something's not going my way. I'm adult enough to admit that. We're all the same way. If we're whining and complaining, typically it's because we're being selfish. Somebody's not taking care of something for us. And as long as they're not going to take care of something for us, then we're going to whine and we're going to complain. And it all centers around self-centered, selfish attitudes. So if we can deal with the cause of our complaining, and we can just set that aside, because deep down, there's nothing we have to complain about. God has blessed us in an amazing way, and he continues to bless us, and we are so grateful for that. And we have just been blessed and richly. When we're able to take a look at that, we have nothing to complain about. Now, these people had a lot to complain about in snakes came, but God provided a way out. All they had to do was look at that snake, that bronze snake, and they would be healed from their sickness. Jesus actually will use this illustration later on to describe why he came and why he came to make a difference. And we're going to actually take a look at a passage that Jesus actually talks about what's going on with Israelites. But before we do that, I want to encourage you for a moment to use your history and learn from it. Use your history and teach the next generation what they should learn from. I had a really good friend of mine who, when he was younger, didn't really live life the way he should. He wasn't a Christian at the time. And, was very rebellious, was that typical rebellious teenager, and did a lot of things he was ashamed of, and a lot of things he should have never done. For that reason, he became a parent at a very, very young age. And continued to live his life, was not really a father to that child for a long time. And continued to live his life for himself. Well, he got married, and he and his wife decided, maybe there's something missing. And they started coming to church. And they grew as a result of that. And he actually became a leader of a church, one of the deacons of that church. And the church became very important to them, and important to their kids. But he was still kind of wayward with his son. And his son, when he became 18, started making the same decisions and same choices his dad made. And it tore up his dad. Because at that point in time, his dad was a Christian, had been for a long time. And he and I were talking one day, and I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, it pains me what my son is going through, the decisions that he's making. But I can't say anything to him because, I did the same thing when I was his age. And I wish I could have convinced him then. Maybe being a parent, maybe that was what's changed my mind. Maybe just growing older and hopefully more mature has changed my mind and perspective on that. But I wish I had the words. I wish someone else had the words to tell him, you are exactly who he needs to hear from. Not only as his father, although that's first and foremost, but also as someone who's experienced it. When you've gone through a tough time in your life, you've gone through a storm in your life, and you're talking to someone who's been there, how blessed are you at the end of that conversation? I know if I'm going through a tough time and I'm talking to somebody who's never been through what I've been through, and they're trying to give me advice, and it's well-meaning, but they're giving me advice, I want to be like, I don't care what you think. You're not here. You haven't experienced what I've been experiencing. But now on the other side of that, when it's someone who is going through what I've gone through, and what I'm currently going through, I will listen. Because I know they've been there. They've done that. He was exactly, that young man needed his father to share with him what he had been through. And his father never did it, because he felt like he was being a hypocrite. So to make a long story short, son continued to make poor decision after poor decision. And it could have been stopped if he had stepped up, if his father had stepped up. Our Father has stepped up. In John 3:14-16, the most famous verse in the Bible, it actually comes when Jesus is talking about what's going on here with the Israelites. He says, just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in him will have eternal life. For the God loved the world in this way, he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. When the Israelites were wandering in the desert, they were complaining, they were grumbling. Nothing was good enough for them. So God sent the plague of snakes to punish them, to remove those who were leading the masses away from God. And when they would be bitten, they were doomed to die. It's one of those situations when you had that snake bite, you knew what was going to happen. You were going to die. But then there's a way out. As long as they would look at that pole, they would be healed. Similar to us today. Our sin is killing us. Our sin is the poison, just like the poison, the venom from those snakes. Sin is that way. Satan is that way. And the poison has entered into our bloodstream. And it's shutting things down. And it's ruining us. And it will cause our death, a slow, painful death. But there is a way out. God has provided, just as he did for the Israelites, he provided for us today a way to be healed. And it starts with believing. There was nothing magical about that bronze snake and that pole. What happened is when they chose to believe, they believed that God was going to heal them. Just like with the cross and the ichthus, the fish sign, those two are signs of our faith. Anytime someone sees it, they think Christianity. And for us, when we see the cross, it's a reminder. It's a reminder that Jesus died on that cross so that our sins would be forgiven and so that we could go to heaven. When we see the ichthus, we're reminded of the very message that Ben shared during the communion, the fact that we are fishers of men. We are here to make a difference. But let me ask you this. If you're not a Christian, if you don't believe in God, what do those signs mean? What do those signs mean to you? They mean nothing to you. Because you don't believe. Why the cross is so endearing to our hearts is because we believe. And believing is more than a simple agreement that Jesus is God. Believing means we put our trust, our confidence in him alone to save us. It is to put Christ in charge of our present plans and of our everlasting destination. You're going one place. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. There's not a third option. Unlike with the election, there's a third-party candidate. For us, there's not a third option. You're going to hell or you're going to heaven. Where is your path? What direction are you going to go? In this verse 16, John 3:16, the entire gospel comes to focus on this verse. And what it tells us is that God's love is not a self-centered love. It reaches out and draws others in. In this passage here, God sets the pattern of true love and the basis of all of our relationships. And when you love someone dearly, you are willing to give freely to the point of sacrifice. Jesus accepted our punishment. That's the beauty of it. When the Israelites saw the bronze snake, the poison was removed. When we believe that Jesus Christ is our personal Lord and Savior, we give our life to Him, the sin is removed. Now, we'll continue to sin. We'll continue to make the wrong choice. But it's removed. It's removed because God's preparing you. God's preparing us for a better life. Some people really struggle with the idea of everlasting life because they focus so much on the misery that is in our own world. But everlasting life is not an extension to this life. Not at all. Everlasting life with God is Christ given all believers as a guarantee that not only will they live forever, but there'll be no death, there'll be no sickness, there'll be no evil, there'll be no enemies, there'll be no sin. When we don't know Christ, we make choices as though this life is all we have. And I'm telling you, if you're thinking today, this is it, this is all the life that I'm going to have, please, please change that perspective. Please allow Christ to enter into your mind, your body, and remove the poison of sin from your blood. And give Christ your trust, your love. Because when we trust in our Heavenly Father, amazing things will happen. And He will take care of us. As I said, with the election, whoever wins, God wins in the end. He will take care of it. He will take care of us. And that is a promise. That is a blessing. There was a plane that was flying, and the plane was full of people. And the pilot gets on the intercom and says, we're going to expect some turbulence. And just be prepared. We're not offering drinks at this time and pray that, spillage and all that. But we're going to experience it. And it gets a little rough as it sets in. A little while later, he goes back on, he says, this is actually a big storm, and it's going to get kind of rocky. So right now, we're not going to serve any food at this time either. We just want everybody to be safe in their seats, buckled in, just in case anything happens. A little bit later, he comes back on there and says, it's going to get really, really rough. Just calm down, relax. I have everything under control. Well, as you can imagine, people are losing their minds at this time. The plane's going down, and everybody's screaming and hollering, and they're just losing their minds. And as the flight attendant was looking throughout the plane and seeing all these people acting crazy, he spots a little girl in the back of the plane. And she has her little teddy bear, and she has her book, and she's just reading, and just seems to be oblivious to anything that's going on. She's so intent in that book and so at peace, so calm. She's the only one on the plane that is. The plane lands. The flight attendant couldn't help himself. And he goes up to the little girl and he says, you were so brave. While everyone else was upset and got really excited, you were so brave. Why were you so brave? She said, well, you see, my dad's the pilot. And he said he was going to take me home safely. That was all she needed to hear. provide your needs and that He will bless you. Is that what we need to hear? Well, we need to hear that, but we have to trust it as well. Moses dealt with a lot of uncertainty throughout dealing with the people of Israel. But one thing he always had confidence in is the fact that God was going to take care of them. And we see that in the end of chapter 21, verses 34 through 35, and it says this: "But the Lord said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have handed him over to you, along with the whole army and his land. Do to him as you did to the Sihon king of the Amorites who lived in Heshbon." So they struck him, his sons, and his whole army, until no one was left. And they took possession of the land. They're preparing for victory. They're preparing for battle. When you're preparing for battle, you take everything into consideration to what are you sacrificing? What are you giving up? What are you giving in return? They would send spies ahead of them to scope everything out, to see if there was any kind of advantage that they needed to have. And I'm sure, I've been in battle, but I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with it. But God tells Moses, you are going to win. He wanted Moses to be victorious. And He promises that same victory to us over our enemies. He guarantees the victory. We must believe as Moses believed. Believe that God will take care of us. What can God do for us? What is He able to give you? What is He able to give us? And what is the benefit in following Him? How are we so incredibly blessed? We must trust Him to help us. God will always take care of you. And God will continue to always be there for you. We have to trust Him. When we trust Him, we have to show Him that we believe. We must be willing to do more than what we're doing right now. Are you? Are you willing to do more for God than what you're currently doing? Are you willing to pray more? And to just relish that relationship with Him and taking that alone time to tell Him all the concerns, all the intimate frustrations that you're having and dealing with. Are you willing to share that with God and pray more? Are you willing to serve Him? To take care of other people? To give a little back? To make a little difference? Are you willing to give more? Maybe it's financially. Maybe it's spiritually. Maybe it's time. We have to make sure that we have made decisions to follow Him. And that we're willing to do for Him, for His kingdom and His church, because He was willing to do it for us. God assures us victory. Why? Because like the children of Israel, we are guilty of rebelling against God's vision for our life. It's because of sin that we have this precious relationship that needs to be restored. I want to encourage you today to choose the right path. Matthew tells us there are two paths in life. One is wide and it's easy and it's simple and it's the easy way out. But that path leads to destruction. It leads to Satan. But there's another path that's difficult. It's narrow, it's frustrating, it's full of potholes, it's full of bumps in the road. But it will eventually lead to Christ. And every person has a decision to make as to what path they're going to follow. We just read John 3:16 that tells us what we should believe in, what we have an opportunity to believe in. And when we believe in that message, that God sent His only Son to die so that we will live, when we believe in that, then we're ready to accept Jesus Christ as the Lord of our life. We're ready to, as Luke tells us, to repent, to make a change, to no longer live as if we don't have Christ, but live because we're in love with Christ. But the Matthew tells us we've got to confess. We have to admit the fact that we make mistakes, that we have sin, and that we're sick spiritually, and that we need to be healed, we need to be forgiven. And we believe that Jesus Christ is the only way for that to happen. And when we believe in Him, when we're willing to change our life and confess that I messed up and I need a Lord, and I need Jesus Christ as my Lord, then we're ready to come forward and be baptized. Now, baptism is immersion in water. This is why the water is behind me today. I know Sandmore Custodian has worked hard to keep that clean. I appreciate that so much. Because every Sunday is an opportunity where someone says, I'm ready to give my life to the Lord. I'm ready to be baptized. I'm ready to get wet. I'm ready for a life change. Luke tells us that in Acts, that we need to be ready to make a decision to follow Christ and to give our life to Him. The one thing God does not promise, He does not promise an easy life. And He doesn't promise that, He actually guarantees that we're going to face our own consequences. When I was in Southern Kentucky, I preached there for a year and a half, and I met a couple named Felicia and Keith. And my first encounter with them, I kind of felt like I was talking to a brick wall. They didn't really seem to be interested at all in church. They were actually quite annoyed to be even having this conversation. Well, about a month later, after that conversation, they showed up to church. They started coming more frequently. We had several meetings here, several Bible studies, and they decided they wanted to be baptized, and they were. Right before I took on another ministry, Felicia's past caught up with her. Before she gave her life to the Lord, she had been involved in selling drugs. And it got caught up to her, finally. Her past had its own consequences. The family stayed together throughout that whole process. And the reason why they stayed together is because God was part of their life. I don't know what would have happened if God was not a part of their life. I don't know if that marriage would have been, I don't know if that family would have had even more frustrations and struggles. I can't answer that because those are the what ifs. But I can tell you they stayed together because of that. Your relationship with God will help you thrive in ways that you would never even expect. It'll help you thrive in your marriage, help you thrive to be the parent that you need to be. It'll help you thrive to be the teacher, the educator that you are. It'll help you thrive to be the person that God has in store for you to become. But that's only possible if you have that precious relationship. As the musicians come forward, I want to remind you of the song we played right before I came up. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Not only can we take a look at this earth and see the beauty of God's creation, but we can see it in people. And the ones that we love, the ones that we cherish. And we can see it because there's always an opportunity for life change. For you, maybe that's today. Maybe today you've taken in everything that you've heard today and you decide that this is something I believe in, that I want my life to change. This is something that I know I've messed up. I know I have sins in my life, and I know that I need Jesus Christ. And when you're at that place, maybe you're ready to be a part of the church, to be part of our faith. Give your life to the Lord and come forward and be baptized. We even have garments to change into. You don't have to worry about getting clothes on. God is encouraging you to give your life to Him. Don't put it off another day. Let's use this campfire experience to teach us an opportunity to reflect on our own lives and to make a difference. If that difference is becoming a believer in Jesus Christ,